everybody, it's Heather Pastor, Artist Ambassador for the Atlantic Center for the Arts. I think I may have jumped on like 1 minute early, but I am coming to you live from my home studio, aka second bedroom, and my home here in New Smyrna Beach. I am excited to have you all join me for a little abstract line play today. And we are actually going to be doing a series, kind of like a family summer series, because I know there's still a lot of kids that are at home for the summer now that have been home for the school year as well, or a portion of the school year. So I thought I'm going to try to come up with, because I teach both adults and children, I'm going to try to come up with some projects that you might be able to do as a family, or that would bridge the age gap. So many of the concepts that we talk about in any class are, they're really very broad and are the same things that I teach to the kids, maybe just tweak a few words here and there, but it's easy. It's easy to kind of make something that that is for adults and children. So I don't know how many kids will be out there today, but it is kind of a rainy day here in Florida. And so I thought, well, I hope that I'll get a pretty decent group of people here to follow me. If you missed this by any chance today, it's going to live on the Atlantic Center for the Arts Facebook page. So you can always jump on at a later date and watch this and create your own art at that point too. I'm going to try not to say too many ums. Got a new setup here, so forgive me if there's any little technical glitches. I've tried to make sure that doesn't happen. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on the project itself. So I kind of wanted to use music as an inspiration for these the summer series. And there were so many artists over the course of time, there still are, that have used music as inspiration, that listen to music while they're creating their artwork. Kandinsky was one of those artists, and he's the one that I'm kind of concentrating on today. You may have, if you haven't already seen the work that we are going to be inspired by today. This is, is Kandinsky's composition number 8. And he actually used a lot of, a lot of words that are used in musical, and forgive me because I haven't taken piano lessons in many years, but he used words like composition and, what were some of the other ones that he used? I have some notes here that I'm going to try to run through. Improvisation. He named a lot of his work with those kinds of musical terms in them. And I know for a fact that he was not only a painter, he's a Russian painter, lived in the early 1900s, and he was also a musician himself. So he played the piano and the cello, and he also had some really interesting ideas, kind of called himself an art theorist, or I don't know if he did, but people have written about him in such a way. And arguably, he may have been considered the pioneer of abstract art. I don't know if I'd go that far, I'm not sure. There's an awful lot of awesome artists that contributed over the course of history to abstract and expressionism. So, yeah, I don't know. That one I'll leave up to you to decide. So, with this being our inspiration piece, we're going to start by working with some different types of line and shape, because this, and if you can see it here, and also is available online. I put a couple of different pieces up online as well. This types of line, and I don't know if I can get it all in at one time. It's a different format, but anyway, types of line, and also musical symbols. because so many of the musical symbols that you see are, they have a lot of shape and line and can be broken down to create some really interesting compositions artistically, visually. So what I want to start with is going through some of the types of line. So if you were able to download this, then you have that at your disposal. If not, you might need a little cheat sheet, because what I want to do first is to give you some types of line to practice, and then we're going to do something kind of fun. Hopefully you find it fun. We're going to put some of these different shapes. I'm going to actually direct you as to where to put some shapes and lines on your paper, because sometimes it's hard to look at a blank sheet of paper and know what to put on it. So I'm going to help you with that to start, and then we're going to add different things to it after that. So first and foremost, let's just take a few deep breaths to get started. I know I need a few, because I always get nervous when I get on here. I don't know, no matter how many of these I've started to do, I still get a little nervous. So if we just take, let's do 3 deep breaths, and that'll get us started on the right foot and kind of relax us a little bit and get us into that theta state that's so good for creating. So if you want to close your eyes, I think I'm going to, and just sit straight up in your seat. And we're going to take 1 deep breath in and out. There's 2 and 1 more. Feel better already. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to the supplies and make sure everybody has those before we get started. So first and foremost, you're going to need a piece of, I would prefer white. If you don't have white, if you have a lighter color, it might be helpful. So a piece of white or light colored paper. If you're not going to be using watercolor, it really doesn't matter if it's just a piece of copy paper, plain old piece of copy paper that would be in your printer. And if you want to incorporate some watercolor or paint or something a little thicker to your composition, then you probably want to do thicker paper. So this is a mixed media. And I think this is actually a 12, this looks bigger than a 12 by 18. It's a larger format for you and also for me, because I like to work a little bit bigger when I'm doing these classes. But this is a little thicker weight paper. So if you have a mixed media paper or a watercolor paper, even a cardstock would hold up. And when I say cardstock, it's like it's a little thicker. I run it through my copier as well, but it's a thicker paper that you would use for like a folder. It's almost like the consistency of a folder. I don't know how many. It's like 80 pound or something like that. Anyway, so like a thicker, if you're going to want to use watercolor or paint or something a little bigger, a little thicker, use a thicker paper too. If you're going to be using colored pencils or markers or chalk pastels or oil pastels, you could use a, if it has a little tooth to it, a little texture, it helps for some of those mediums, but you could use the lighter weight paper for that. So a piece of white paper, and 8.5 by 11 is fine. If you have something larger, that's fine too. This is a really low supply kind of project. It's nice. I like that about it. I would suggest having a pencil, and I like the big, thicker, bigger erasers. So the little stumpy eraser on the top of a pencil, I make more mistakes than one of those will usually allow me to use. And then colored pencils. So I have a set of colored pencils. They could be, get over here, they could be whatever brand, whatever, doesn't matter, just plain old colored pencils. I've got these, and I've got some Prismacolors, which are actually one of my favorite things to use. So they're just a little waxier. They have a little bit more weight to them than a regular old color pencil. So that's a Prismacolor. If you have those are fun. And then if you want to use like oil pastels, those usually give us, or even if you have crayons, if you don't have oil pastels, you can use crayons. They're just, you know, oil pastels are kind of a fancier crayon, if you will. And they would be fun. If you do have watercolor, you might want to think about grabbing these oil pastels or crayons to go along with that. You can use markers. You're going to need a Sharpie or a permanent marker. I like this one's a fine point. Gotta get this camera thing down. You could use something like this. This is probably more important than, say, like your Crayola markers, which I have those too. But I don't know that I'm going to use these. I would say a white piece of paper, a Sharpie. Those are your two musts, or some kind of a permanent marker. Make sure it's permanent, especially if you're going to want to apply some watercolor. And by the way, I know there's some people that are kind of chiming in on Facebook because we are live, and thank you for that. If you want to tell me where you're from, that would be awesome. I like to try to get an idea, and I think there's still, I didn't double check, I think there's a pre-survey for this workshop. So if there is, if you wouldn't mind filling that out, that would be great, somewhere in the time frame that we're together. And then I think there's also a post survey, if you wouldn't mind filling that out when we're finished. So I wanted to make sure I mention those. And like I said, if there should be a link in the actual event, same place you would have found these downloads. That's where the links for the surveys would be under the event itself. And right now we're on the main page at Atlantic Center for the Arts. If you're going to be using watercolor, you're going to need your watercolor palette, just a simple one. It could be one of the Crayola ones. The only one I have is really messy, so I didn't want to put that up there in the world. This looks much prettier for video. And a cup of water, obviously, and maybe a couple of different size brushes. So these are kind of I use them for everything. I know you're not technically supposed to, but these nylon Taklon brushes, for what we're going to be doing today, they will work just fine. So if you have a couple different sizes, that might be nice. You might want to change things up a little bit. Large areas, large brushes, and small areas, small brushes. And if you have other size permanent markers, like I've got a little, this is a very fine or extra fine, actually, yeah, Sharpie, again, like, it's a permanent marker. So white paper, permanent markers, black preferably, but you know, I feel like Kandinsky did, he worked in paint, I believe oil paints. So we're kind of going rogue with our mediums, but you know, he worked with a lot of lines. So I find it easier to to draw a line with a Sharpie than I do to paint it nice and straight and pretty. So he had a lot of practice, so I'm sure. I also feel like, let's just look at this really quick. I also feel like a lot of, if you look at the musical symbols sheet that I have on the events page, this one, and you look at his compositions. Now, he didn't necessarily try to create musical symbols in his paintings, but he did see that there was he had a theory about colors being able to like mix senses. So he would, how do I describe it? He felt like the color color does have emotion attached to it. So if you say, you know, that you're angry and you want to convey anger, let's say on using just color and line, we might use, what colors? What might we use? If you want to type that in, that'd be awesome. But I won't be able to probably read it. So a lot of times when people feel the emotion of anger, they associate it with the warm colors like red. Now, this setup is a little different than before, so it's a little harder for me to do that, but red. And usually, like, if you're upset, you do something like really hard with your pencil, right? So like, I'm mad, and it usually ends up being like a zigzag line, right? It's sharp. So conveying anger or some kind of a negative emotion sometimes can be seen as when you use a I'm probably going to do it with a marker. This one's not good. This one, so that you can see it a little bit better. But that might be an angry line. What about like calm? A calm line. So, and calming colors. Calming colors tend to be cooler. So blues, greens, violets, in that family. So, in a calm line, and maybe you want to do this on your own, might be a little bit more curvy. Might be a little bit less, sharp. So, there's my very short and sweet on color and line and emotion. Now, there's a whole lot going on in this particular piece, this composition 8 of Kandinsky's. But there's also a lot of balance. So like, he used blue in specific locations. And a lot of times an artist will use color to help you bounce around, kind of the same way music has a rhythm. There's a lot of terminology when you're talking about the principles of design that follows with musical theory, maybe. But using the same color in different areas helps your eye move around visually. So like, here's, this is gonna be kind of backwards for me, but there's blue here, there's blue over here, there's a little bit of blue here. So take a look, even if you don't have this in front of you, think about those kinds of things when we're creating our composition today. You want to have some of these elements repeated. Repetition is another thing. You want to have them repeated in your design, and your eye will automatically be drawn to them and move through the composition. So I think we should get started. What do you think? You kind of over all my babbling. So I think to start, I'm going to give you a few directives. I don't like to be too bossy, but let's start by using pencil. So unless you're feeling brave, I'm a pencil and I go over everything with marker. But marker is not erasable. And that's why I need my big eraser, because I like to make adjustments as we go along. So if you're one who likes to make adjustments also, start with a pencil. So on this large piece of paper, now I'm not going to do, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes to do this part. I'm not going to be able to close my eyes and do it on here. Well, maybe I could. But I think I'm going to leave my eyes open so that I make sure that I get this all on here. I'm going to give you the directives, and what I would suggest you do is take your paper, turn it whichever direction you want. You could make it vertical, profile, or excuse me, portrait, or you could do horizontal or like a landscape format, either one. And I want you to kind of sit with it in front of you, and I have all kinds of little pieces of reference material here. Sit with it in front of you, and I want you to, and this could even be its own little meditation, is to close your eyes. Now, when I've done this class in the past, I've actually had people like blindfold themselves, because it's easy to kind of cheat. It's easy to open your eyes and then look. But, and you could do one of each. You could do this with me now with your eyes closed, and if you don't like the way it looks, then you can always add to it, which we're going to do anyway. Or you could do a whole different composition with your eyes open. I find though that sometimes it's just kind of like when you twist your paper upside down. That's a drawing kind of technique that you use when you're trying to get information. You have to sometimes trick your brain. We all are, the left side of our brain always wants to fill in the blanks. And if you operate more on the right-hand side of your brain over here, then it's usually a little more freeing. It's a little more liberating. So when you close your eyes or you flip something upside down, you kind of helps to flip that switch in your brain from the left to the right. So the right is the one that is the one that we like to try to use for creating art. So if you put your piece of paper here in front of you, and you take your pencil, or my brave friends who have their Sharpie in hand, we're going to I want you to close your eyes and just feel the edges of the paper, figure out where everything is, the corners, make sure you understand where the corners are. And I'm going to direct, maybe I'll do one myself down here. Because if you're going to have your eyes closed, then it doesn't really matter if I'm up here or not. And this is going to be a little tricky for me. But I'll give you a directive on, we're going to do shapes, simple shapes. I'm not going to go crazy because I don't even know what a rhombus looks like, so I won't throw a rhombus at you or anything. I do know what a rhombus looks like, but it's been a long time since I took geometry. So we'll do simple stuff like circles and squares, and probably more like rectangles, because we're not going to be able to tell when we're closing our eyes if our all of our sides are even, which would make it a square. Triangles, maybe a diamond, we might throw something like that in there. And then the types of line. So we'll just go over these really quickly again. Obviously, straight line. And going right to left would be our horizontal, and up and down would be our vertical, and dotted lines, dashed lines. I'm going to call these waves because they actually look like a wave. I'm going to call the one in the center here, I'm going to call that one a curly or loops. And then, let's see, this one here obviously is a zigzag, I just did it. An arch, like kind of like a rainbow, I'll call that an arch. A spiral, and this one's a curvy instead of a curly. So if you imagine like what you draw for a girl's hair, curly, and then this I'm going to just use curvy. Okay, so if you are closing your eyes and I say, and then I'm going to give you a placement. So I'm going to give you a type of line, and I'm also going to give you a placement of that line and or shape. And then, like I said, if you like it, then you can run with it and we'll add color to that one. And if you don't, then you can create another one with your eyes wide open. Okay, deal? All right, so we're going to close our eyes, and I don't think I'm going to say big or little, because I think you can determine how small or large you want these shapes and these lines to be. But I will probably say something like diagonal line from the top right to the bottom left. I'll try to get it right, okay? Okay, so paper in front of you, pencil or Sharpie, depending upon how you're feeling, and then I'm going to go ahead and give you the directives, okay? And if you want, like I said, just close your eyes. Okay, so the first thing I want you to draw is a circle in the top right corner. And then I want you to draw a triangle in the bottom left. So find that bottom left corner. And then let's do a square somewhere toward the center. Now you're not going to be able to find that exactly, but it's going to be away from the corners, right? And then let's do a straight line from the top left to the bottom right, diagonally, straight. let's do am I going too fast? It's kind of hard sometimes when you don't have everyone in front of you. I don't know if I've lost anybody. Let's do a curvy line from the bottom left to the top right on a diagonal again. Something close. And then let's do 3 straight lines that are vertical in the top left corner. And they could all be the same. They could be different lengths, whatever you want. And then let's do 3 horizontal lines from right to left. Let's do those at the bottom of the paper. So anywhere at the bottom. And then let's try to do a triangle. Let's do 3 triangles, 3 little triangles kind of on the left-hand side. So 3 little triangles, and we'll see how they look, where they end up. And then let's do a spiral. I love the spirals. Let's do a spiral on the right-hand side, anywhere on the right-hand side, and any size that you want. Okay. All right. So let's see what they look like. And I did mine in pencil. I probably should have done mine in Sharpie, but like I said, I'm kind of non-committal that way. And that's about like what mine looks like with pencil, which actually shows up pretty well on here. It might be a little shadowed. Okay. So what do you think? Did you like what you came up with the directive? Now it's kind of fun sometimes. Like I said, we'll go back in on top of this and we're going to add maybe some of the musical symbols. And then do a little more intuitive line placement. So if you want to add some, like I like little dotted lines, I'm going to add some dotted lines on here. I'm going to do it in Sharpie and I'm going to put it up here so that you can see it. So this is what I started with. This was my my blind, if you will, or with my eyes closed. And actually, I'm going to try to. When you look at this, and if you like what you see, go ahead and put the Sharpie marker. If you didn't do it in Sharpie to begin with, go ahead and put the Sharpie marker on or over these pencil lines. And like I said, you can always add to it. And this is going to be a little tricky. I'm sorry if you're looking at the top of my head. Ooh, that was way off. And I want to turn this toward me, but then you won't be able to see it very well. So, and then if you did do it in pencil and you want to, if you did do it in pencil and you do the Sharpie on top of it, we're going to erase all of our pencil lines, okay? So this is just to kind of get things going. And it's a lot harder to do a blind circle that looks like a circle. So if you need to clean that up like mine, it's not looking so hot. But hopefully, whatever I gave you, hopefully there's some intersecting lines. That kind of makes things a little bit more interesting if you overlap things. All right, so now I want to add a few things to this. So these are the lines that I had given you as a blind directive, if you will. So now I'm going to look at it and decide I might want to add some other elements that aren't on here now. And I want to try to fill up my space. I don't want to fill it all up. Now, like if you'll notice on Kandinsky's, hopefully I do this right, you know, there are some white spaces. Well, not necessarily white. He probably had some color on here. It's hard to tell when you have a copy of a copy of a copy, but there are spaces where he doesn't have anything. So you don't want to fill it up so completely that you don't have a little bit of white space is okay. And it's a good thing. And then look at some of these, like he did like some little, more of like a little bullseye. So maybe you want to put like inside of one of these circles, maybe we want to add some some other like little dots, or you know, just kind of don't think too much about it. Don't overanalyze, which I have a tendency to do. Just start kind of drawing some other things. Maybe you want to use some other shapes like a heart, or I had said we might do a diamond. I might try to do some kind of a diamond shape here. And intersect these lines. We want to create some interesting little spaces in between, I call them. So think about that too. Think about maybe drawing something on top of or over. I'm going to do another kind of curvy line to create a different shape here. And then I think I want to put some other little dots. So now, because these are a little bit more thought out, you can probably do these in the Sharpie. You could still do them in pencil and go over them with the Sharpie, but I usually do pencil a lot when I'm doing the blind or the eyes closed version. So, and if you want to use some musical symbols, kind of take a look at those. Where is it? Is it a treble clef? I think is this one here. So you could probably like build, kind of build a treble clef off of a spiral. So like, this is going to be another one that's going to be kind of hard. I'm going to come up here, and if I want to do a treble clef, oh, I might have already messed it up here. You know, something like that. So it doesn't have to be so obvious. And don't worry about how straight or pretty your lines are, because we can make them straighter and prettier as we go on. Maybe you want to incorporate like some letters. I don't know. Just throwing some ideas out there. But we want to add a few more points of interest. On our composition here. This actually kind of looks like a bowling ball. I didn't mean for it, but when I looked at it again, I'm like, there's 3 holes that are all kind of in that same basic spot, just like a bowling ball. So I got to fix something. I got to do something else to that because that looks kind of goofy. And you could build lines, I don't know, maybe some like arched lines. You could create some more points of interest. Or even if you wanted to add, I think I'm going to add some line in here. Something like that. And I feel like I need a nice big circle somewhere around here. Nope, that's no circle. Now it's going to be like an amoeba shape, because it wasn't turning out to be a very nice looking circle. It's really hard to do this like on an angle. I need to be flat on top of something to do it the way I like to. Maybe you had some lines that were a little bit off. So what I would do is either thicken up those lines or create a secondary line like I just did on this one. And I'll just be a little, I haven't erased my pencil lines yet, but this is kind of how mine's shaping up. And then I want to do something that looks a little bit more musical again, like a music note, I think. So let's see if I can get this back up here. Let's see. I like the, oh, I like this one too. I can't decide. This one right, gotta go this way. Here, kind of looks like a little eye. Right? An eye with an eyebrow, this one. I don't remember what it's called. It's some kind of an accent. So I'm going to put that somewhere. Let me do it here. Just an arch. And since my arch was kind of messed up, I'm going to do that. And sometimes it's fun too, especially after you've done the blinded part. The closed eye. Sometimes it looks better if you turn it in a different direction. Oh, yes. Thanks, Bethany. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's the word, synthesia. I wish you were here to say that word for me, because I saw that in my readings, and it's got to do with the senses, and I can't find my note on it right now. I wish that I could, because it kind of explains how, where is it? I can't find it. I'm not very good at the whole reading comprehension and scanning of a page. Oh, but I did want to share this little quote with you because I thought it was pretty cool. And it was a nice kind of combination of the visual art and the musical, kind of how Kandinsky would have seen it. So, our hearing of colors is so precise, and that's it. It's basically he was saying that when he would hear a piece of music, he would see colors. So there's like this kind of merging of senses that would happen for him, and I guess it's fairly common. I wish it happened for me, but it's something that does happen for certain people. So I'm a little jealous. He says, color is a means of exerting a direct influence upon the soul. Color is the keyboard. The eye is the hammer. The soul is the piano with its many strings. The artist is the hand that purposely sets the soul vibrating by means of this or that key. Thus, it is clear that the harmony of colors can only be based upon the principle of purposefully touching the human soul. So, and the hammer he's talking about, I believe, is inside of the piano, the hammer that actually, again, I think I need to go back to school for some music theory to present this information a little bit more, to sound a little bit more intelligent about it. But he also had a theory of geometric figures and their relationships, and he felt like the circle was the most peaceful of the geometric shapes, and that it represented the human soul. He was very spiritual about his art making as well. So music and visual art and painting and the spirit and spiritual. There's a spiritual element to what he does, and I wish that I could convey that better than I am today. But he is worth a little bit of reading if you're interested in that concept and all of the things that he brought together with his work. So, anyway, let's see. Okay, so we've got some things going on here. I still want to add a couple more elements. Oh, we were talking about turning your composition on different angles. So maybe you like it, maybe this is the top, maybe it's not, maybe this is the top. So that's the other thing I would invite you to do, is to kind of turn it in different directions and see which one you like better. Sometimes even when you start with it, like I think I started with it like this, sometimes you'll find that if you twist it, horizontally, you might like it better. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you end up with it exactly as you started. But I don't know. I think I might turn it horizontally. Anyway, okay. So that's something to also think about. I'll see how I'm doing on some time here. Okay. So we need to start adding some color to these, because an hour goes by so quickly. And I'm used to having everybody, when I teach in person, I have them for a little bit longer. So I got to just move right along here. So I want to take this, and I'm going to erase all of my pencil marks really quickly, because I want to talk about adding color. And again, color placement. So if you have and you want to use watercolor, I would recommend doing that. Well, I'm going to take that back. I would recommend doing, if you're going to do watercolor and like an oil pastel or a crayon, I would recommend doing the crayon first. So, let's see, I have like a little, this is not the prettiest picture, but it gives you an idea. So I did the pink in this picture. I did the pink, still getting this down, in oil pastel. So this is an oil pastel, and it's kind of hard to see, but this paper is also very thick. It's very textured. So the pink is oil pastel, and then I went over it with the purple watercolor. So you get what they call like a wax resist when you do something like that. And it's really fun to kind of play with. I tried to make it darker on this end, and then I got a little faded out little gradient here with the oil pastel. So you don't want to fill the whole thing up with oil pastel, but whatever parts you do put oil pastel on, if you leave any white showing through, they're going to absorb the watercolor when you go over it. And it's really pretty. I mean, you can do something much more sophisticated than this, but that just gives you an idea of what that would look like. And again, it kind of achieves the same effect or the appearance that he has on some of his work. This kind of looks almost watercolored, right? If you wanted to do some large splotches of watercolor in your background, again, I would do, if you're going to do oil pastel, you could do that first and then do the watercolor over it. Or you could do the, and you can always go, watercolor is lovely, but you have to wait for it to dry. So if you're going to wait for it to dry, you can always go back over top of it with maybe some colored marker, or you could go over it with more colored pencil. I did just another quick, I started this and I haven't finished it, but most of this was in watercolor, and then I started to add a little bit of colored pencil in here in some different areas. So anyway, there's options. So you could start with whatever you're kind of feeling. Like if you're thinking about watercolor, why don't you try putting a little bit of oil pastel or crayon first, and then go over it with the watercolor. That's what I would recommend. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait a little while. I won't be able to probably start with watercolor while I have you guys on today because it will take too long to dry, and I won't be able to add what I want while I still have you on here. So, and I did all of this on the flimsy copy paper, so I can still add watercolor to it, but it's going to probably buckle, and it's not going to be so pretty to look at. So I meant to do it on here, and then I got going, and c'est la vie. Okay, so, and I want to try to add this color while I've got you. Now I can't remember which one I wanted to be on. I think I wanted to go like this. So, and this is, in my opinion, this is not finished. Like, I would add some more line to this personally. And I still could with colored pencil. I could put some colored lines on here, which I might do that. Actually, I think I'm going to do that like someplace like here. I'm going to still add some arch lines here, and maybe they get a little closer together. And then I can either fill those in with another color, or if you're going to do like watercolor, you could put watercolor over the colored pencils too. Really, if you have the time to wait for something to dry, like the watercolor to dry, like you could do this in any, there's not a particular one that you have to do first. Most of those decisions I'm making are based on time frames. And then I want to fill in a couple of these too. So you can kind of, what I call ping pong. I ping pong back and forth, between different elements all the time. So I might start going in here with some color, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I still want to fill this in, make this solid. I don't know. I still, again, like I feel like I'm missing some things here. I don't feel like this is complete. And you know what? You might also want to thicken up some of these lines. Right now, that'll also be interesting and draw someone's eye. These solid elements will draw an eyeball to them. So I need probably something solid maybe over here too. So right now, all my solid elements seem to be on one side. Like, I mean, I could do this whole thing just in black and white, but I'm going to add some color. And think about your color selection too. We can thicken up some of these lines. We can create some, you know, because right now they're all one weight. And if you want something, again, to add interest to your composition, and if you have like one of these smaller permanent markers, you know, maybe you want to add some thinner lines in here. Kind of reminds me of is it a music staff? Is it a staff? Where, you know, like all of the musical notes are where they are on here. And maybe I'll make this look kind of like a note. To me, a musical note just kind of looks like an oval, right? With a line coming off of it. You could add that little thing that looks like a flag. And I apologize, if you know your musical symbolism, you're probably cringing every time I don't know the name of something, but you get the idea. So there's some other little musical symbolism in there. But I'm also, yeah, I'm going to thicken up some of these. You don't have to, and then you don't even have to thicken up the whole circle. Just do part of it, or make a little crescent, kind of like a little crescent moon or a moon phase looking. You could do something like that. Kind of like that. Like an eclipse. I think we had an eclipse yesterday, so. And a lot of times I use those, I'll thicken up lines that maybe weren't straight to begin with, or that, you know, kind of little artist. Mishaps that you might not, you know, want to admit were there, but you as the artist are the only one who will know that they were there. Oh, and I think it's a whole note, maybe. It's kind of thicker on both sides. Anyway, again, like I said, I could go on and on with just the black and white lines. And again, make sure before you start adding color that you've erased out, if you did pencil, erase out all your lines, your pencil lines. And then I'm going to come in here, I've got some colored pencil, and just going from like light to dark. You might want to practice that like on another sheet of paper. If you're not somebody that uses a lot of colored pencils, because it's sometimes a little tricky, and it's just got to do with the pressure of the pencil, but the pressure you apply on the pencil, I guess I should say. And I love colored pencils, but they're not usually something that I use very often, so kind of takes a little bit of time. What other colors can I incorporate here? And if you've got a specific color in your hand, maybe you want to use like, so I had this like kind of an orangey colored pencil. So I did a little orange element here, and then before you put it down, think about putting another element, you know, where it would make a triangle, or it would be a path for your eye to take. So if you've got the triangle here that's orange, maybe I'll do this with this kind of corally orangey color too. And then I've got a path for it to travel. And maybe I'll do something here with the same coral. Maybe I'll just do half of this. I don't know, something different. And then I think I'll do this up here with that color, or maybe just some lines, some stripes. So your colored pencils, your oil pastels, those will be good for like filling in some color, some like more detailed color. And then when you get to the point where you want to do, maybe you want to do some of these larger areas. And I should probably, I got all my watercolors here, and I think I have about 15 more minutes with you guys. So I'll just add like maybe a little bit of let's see, some blue. The more translucent you want your watercolor, the more water you want to add to it. And if you want some larger areas, use a big brush, kind of paint that in. I had to pull this one back out because it's the only one that's got the tooth to the page so that it will accept this watercolor paper. My other paper wouldn't, so. Anyway, so if you want to do some large areas, I would recommend probably watercolor or an acrylic or something like that. And then do your detail work in like the oil pastel, the chalk, the soft. I didn't pull out, I mean, I have my, oh yeah, I did. These are pretty messy, like if you're going to use the chalk or the soft pastels, they tend to be kind of messy. So, as much as I love them, I don't use them very often. So, let's see. Let's do something here. They're kind of fun. Like this paper is really funky, so I don't even know if any of this is going to stick on here. They're kind of fun to work with your fingers. Do like a gradient. So you kind of play. I love this paper because it's super textured, but it's also like, it's a little, it was a recycling of paper. This isn't really technically a watercolor paper or a, it's not watercolor nor is it mixed media, but that just gives you an idea. So there's some chalk pastel, soft pastel, and then some watercolor on there. I'll leave that up there. And I really like this. I like my little composition I'm putting together here. I really like the way it's coming out. But play with, if you're going to do the chalk pastels, I would do those probably last. Add those to the tippy top layer of whatever you're doing. I don't know if I can get online and answer any questions. It's hard to... Oh, see, somebody does know their musical terms, and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read it. Oh, fermata? Oh, that little, the eyeball with the little eyebrows called fermata, and it means to hold the note or play. Thank you. Is it Michael? I'm so sorry. I probably should have put my glasses on, but I really don't like them, so I never do. Makes it a little more difficult to read when you're trying to, and I've got an iPad this time. Last time I was on my phone. I thought the iPad would be a little bit easier, but the comments are teeny tiny, and I'm far enough away from them where I can't read them very well. So once you have added some color to this, I want to show you just a couple other examples of Kandinsky's work that might inspire you as you're adding some color play. So this one I like too. I love the colors in that. I don't know if I'm holding this the right side up, but again, you know, of course the artist is the only one who knows the true top and bottom. Here's another one, his work. And again, I don't know. I'm pretty sure this was the way it's supposed to go. But there's it's kind of fun because you can see some elements, like it looks like kind of like a little cat face. So you could make this less abstract, and you know, or the elements are still going to be abstracted, which means that they are not, they're not easily, what's the word I want? I can't think of it. They're not easily, whatever. You can't tell what it is very easily. So, abstracted. I should know that left and right. back and forth. I can't, you know, sometimes again, like something about being live on video that kind of sets me a little goofy here. So here's another piece of Kandinsky's work. So let me jump on and see if I can answer any quick questions, and hopefully you have enjoyed this lesson, this workshop on abstract line play. It's in the title. I need to know abstract, like abstracted. It's not easily, or it's not clear what the image is. It's I won't say hidden. It's not hidden. Let me just see if I refresh this, if I can see what you all have been commenting. I'm butchering it. Michael says fermata. I think. Okay. Well, I will take a closer look at those. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of questions. Mainly some comments and some help for this floundering soul. But hopefully you've enjoyed the Kandinsky workshop, the abstract line play. It's Heather Pastor again, Artist Ambassador for Atlantic Center for the Arts. And again, I've got to check and see if there is a post workshop survey. If you wouldn't mind taking that, we'd much appreciate it. And I believe the next workshop that I'll be teaching is on July 11th, and it's going to be one of two, either Stuart Davis or I think the other artist that I was considering. It'll be another, and I'm going to try to do a little bit more like history on the musical end of things. But we'll be talking about their work and how they incorporated music into it. Mondrian or Stuart Davis. I can't remember which one I have scheduled for July. And then there'll be a third one in August that will be part of the same series. So again, I'm trying to make them enjoyable for both adults and kids. Now, the adult aspect basically is that you're going to make it a little bit more sophisticated, you'll add more elements. Like again, I would continue on this. This is not finished by any means, but it gives you an idea of where you can kind of go with things. And hopefully I gave you enough where you will finish your composition. And if you wouldn't mind, I don't know that you can post them to the actual live feed. I think there were some issues with being able to do that. But I think if you go into the event, we had a couple of people who posted samples of the work that they had done while they were online with me. So if you would like to do that, that would be wonderful. Or you can also email them to me, and I'll make sure that they get put up on the site. Email's hp@heatherpastor.com. And if you want to share any other bits of musical symbol definitions and such, I'm also available there as well. So you have a wonderful Saturday afternoon. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again next month. All right, take care. Bye.